What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, I'm going to talk about wildcard for game week 4. Now, before we get into the draft, just to explain how I've set things up, this is kind of a general draft that will work for different chip strategies. Obviously, some of you might have already used your bench boost and or free hit, and some of you might have one or both of those chips left to use. I've set it up in a way that if you need to bench boost, you can bench boost with this team in game week 5. But it's not got so much money on the bench that it's going to be a problem to manage long term. And for those of you that have still got your free hit left, this draft will work quite nicely with a free hit 6, but it'll also work more than fine if you don't have free hit for 6 as well. So just to explain that, obviously if you have got certain chips left and certain weeks you want to play, then you might want to tweak the draft a little bit, but I think it works pretty well as a general overview of the players that you should be looking to pick in game week 4. So let's get into the draft. So when you're wildcarding this early, you need to take into account fixture swings that are going to happen in the near future. One team to really think about is Arsenal. So this week it's Forest at home, which is fine. Then it's Man City at home in 5 and Newcastle away in 6, which is a little bit tougher. But from game week 7 onwards, they got a really good fixture run. So I'd prefer to have 1 to 2 players in my squad right now rather than worry about how to get them later on. Now, you could have the perfect plan on paper to not have Arsenal players, roll a few transfers and then bring them in game week 7. The problem with that is plans change, injuries happen. And for some of you, that might be why you're wildcarding right now. And you don't have another wildcard to bail you out. So I would definitely have 1 to 2 Arsenal players on my wildcard right now, rather than having to figure out how to get them later, because there's going to be another fixture swing in game week 9 for Chelsea players, and then in game week 13, you got fixture swings for Liverpool, Man City, and Newcastle. So I think having Arsenal players right now is really important. That's why I've gone for Raya in goal. And let's be honest, they're the best defence in the league. If anyone's going to host Man City at home and get a clean sheet, it is Arsenal. So even having to bench boost him in game week 5 is not the end of the world. I've gone for Van Dijk as well. As a combination, I prefer Raya and Van Dijk to Alisson and Gabriel. It's also slightly cheaper, I think, by like 0.1 million. You don't have to have a Liverpool defender at all if you don't want to. You could go for a cheaper goalkeeper like Petrovic at Bournemouth, for example. I've got Senesi on the bench, so I probably wouldn't double up. But you could go for someone like Petrovic in goal at 4.5 and then have Gabriel instead of Van Dijk. I don't mind that at all. But for this one, I've gone for Raya and Van Dijk. And part of the reason is, I know in the first 2 games for Liverpool, they look quite open, but that is just a solid defence. They will be top 3, in my eyes, by the end of the season. Like, Arne Slot will figure it out. Burnley away is a really good fixture. Then in game week 5, you've got Everton at home. And also, talking about fixture swings later on, I know it's a long way away, but if you look at the fixtures that Liverpool have, how many games over the next 6 weeks would you worry about playing Van Dijk in? Not that many. Palace away, okay. Chelsea away, not so great. But even Man United at home. Like, Liverpool have just got a clean sheet. Arsenal at home. They can do the same against Man United. Brentford away, Villa at home, fine. And when you hit game week 12, the fixtures for Liverpool get really good. So again, it's another player you're putting in to not have to worry about later on. And I get that you want to target the fixtures over the next 3-4 weeks, but Liverpool also have quite good fixtures then as well. So that's why Van Dijk is in, and that's why I've not gone for Gabriel. On the bench, by the way, goalkeeper-wise, I've got Dubravka. I think that's a pretty obvious pick for everyone. He's 4 million, the only playing 4 million goalkeeper. And if you are looking to bench boost, I would probably do it in game week 5, and he's got Forest at home that week. So not an issue whatsoever. You could plan for a later bench boost, but again, other stuff will crop up, injuries and stuff like that. If I'm wildcarding in 4 and I've got a bench boost to play, I'm playing it in game week 5, just getting it out of the way as soon as possible. The other 2 defenders this week, alongside Van Dijk, and Munoz and Lacroix. So I've gone for a double up on Crystal Palace. I'm pretty sure Sarr is going to be out for a while. So the only other player most people are going to be looking at is Mateta. You could go for a punt on one of their other midfielders, but personally I just wouldn't go there right now. So Munoz and Lacroix, Sunderland at home this week, West Ham away next week, so it fits in with a bench boost. They do have Liverpool at home in game week 6, which is not ideal. If you don't have free hit left, or you're not going to use it in game week 6, I'd maybe drop one of the Palace players to someone else. But if you are free hitting in 6, they look great because you dodge the Liverpool game, and most of the fixtures after that, apart from Arsenal away in 9, look pretty good. Munoz is super attacking and can get defensive contributions. Lacroix is great for defensive contributions and can get attacking returns. They're the kind of players you can play in any game if needed. So I really like that double up, and I'm pretty sure I would go for it on wildcard in game week 4. My 2 bench defenders, Senesi from Bournemouth, who's been amazing for defensive contributions so far. And also not just that, but actually if you look at the upcoming fixtures that Bournemouth have, there's so many games you can play them in. Brighton at home this week. Newcastle at home in 5 again, not amazing, but as a bench boost option, not terrible. You can get defensive contributions there. Leeds away in 6, Fulham at home in 7, Palace away in 8, Forest at home in 9. The fixtures are just quite good for quite a while. So I think he's just an easy player to put in. I would definitely have him on wildcard. And then I've gone for a Stev from Burnley. Again, for that bench boost in game week 5, Forest at home. And longer term, you've just got your 5th defender as cheap as possible. You could look to maybe fit in Anderson from Fulham if you've got a bit more money to spend. He might be a more solid option than Estev, and he's got good fixtures in 4 and 5, so he works for bench boost as well. But I tried to take money out of that spot. I think, as always with wildcards, you make one little change and the dominoes fall, and then maybe you change a bunch of other players as well. So like I said, if you go for a cheaper goalkeeper than Raya, maybe then you put Gabriel in, maybe you got a bit more money to spend, you put in Anderson instead of Estev. You can set it up however you want, but I think this works really nicely, not only for this week and Bench Boost 5, but longer term as well. Swing midfield, I've gone for Salah. Fairly straightforward pick this week with Burnley away. He's probably the best captain on paper, and he's arguably the best captain in game week 5 as well. Now let's quickly talk about game week 5. So the fixture that week for Liverpool is Everton at home. So not only is it a derby, but it's also the 12:30 kickoff on Saturday. And I know a lot of people hate captaining players in that time slot for reasons that I don't think are mostly valid, but whatever, right? People think that way. And that's fine. But when you look at the alternatives, there's not really a huge amount of standout options. If you think about the other big hitters, Saka may or may not be fit that week. And even if he is, it's Man City at home. For Haaland, it's his hardest game of the fixture on paper, Arsenal away. And then Palmer, who's not even in this squad, and I don't think he would be for many people, is Man United away. So there's not really many alternatives. Like Villa are playing Sunderland away. I don't think many people are going to wildcard with Ollie Watkins in their team. And captaining like Rodgers or Harvey Elliott, I just don't think it's worth it. So that is why Salah has to be in for me, because not only is the best captain in 4, I also think he's the best captain in 5 as well. Now, spoiler alert, I do not have Erling Haaland in this team. I've looked at drafts with both him and Salah. I don't think they work that well. You could make the argument to go for both of those players, have Salah captain this week, Salah captain in 5, Haaland captain in 6, and Haaland captain in 7, and then spread the money around with the transfers you've saved up. But again, you're almost, I wouldn't say that's a trap, but it's like it only works if the plan is perfect and nothing else happens. So if you get a bunch of injuries that you can't react to because you've got no money to upgrade those players, you need to get out of Haaland, but you don't want to sell Haaland because he's about to pay. But like, it just doesn't work in my eyes. You can make a squad. I just don't think it'll work for the long term. So it's one or the other. And for that reason, I've gone for Salah because of captaincy the next 2 weeks. Now, obviously, in game week 6, Haaland's got Burnley at home. And in game week 7, he's got Brentford away. And in 7, Salah's got Chelsea away. So Salah best captain in 4 and 5, in my opinion. Haaland the best in 6 and 7. If you've got a free hit, obviously you can cover the Burnley game for Man City. That's not a problem. Your alternative options, if you don't have your free hit, are to sell Salah to get Haaland, so roll transfers into 6 and pick him up, or just to ignore him for 1 week. I know in 7 he's probably the best captain as well, but it's not such a huge margin as it is in 6. If you can get through 6 with Haaland not doing massive damage to your team, then just ignoring him might work out. So that's another strategy. So if you start with Salah, you're free hitting in 6, you're selling to Haaland in 6, or you're just ignoring Haaland. You can make that decision for your own team. I do think once you get past 7, Salah's just worth having. Like captain against Man United in 8, then it's Brentford away, Villa at home, which is fine. 11's not great away to City, but obviously Haaland will be home to Liverpool that week. And 12 onwards, the fixtures are really good. So I would definitely start with Salah. And worst case scenario is you ignore Haaland for game week 6, which won't feel great, but longer term it might work out well. The rest of the midfield, I struggled with a little bit because of how I've set the forward lineup. I think if I was wildcarding this week, I'd probably go a bit cheaper up front and probably fit Bruno Fernandes in instead of Xavi Simons, who I've gone for as a punt. But I think most people will want to go for the forward line I've got in this draft, which is why Bruno's not in the midfield. Now, with Xavi Simons, he's coming at 7 million. It is a bit of a punt, but I think with him, I'm pretty confident in the minutes straight away. I think he'll be starting number 10 for Spurs. He might take some set pieces as well. And I think he'll score more goals than Kudus. You could go for Kudus instead. He's going to keep starting on the right. But I like that Xavi Simons option as a punt. Obviously, you could pick another midfielder. But you've got to go for this draft in and around 7 million. So that's who I've gone for. Semenyo started the season really well. Bournemouth's fixtures are great, which is why I've got Senesi as well. He's just a really nice pick if you can afford him. And then my 2 cheaper midfielders are Reinders and Paquetá from West Ham. Now, again, I've got in mind potentially bench boosting in game week 5 with this team. If you've already bench boosted, you could drop one of these midfielders down to Dewsbury Hall at 5 million and then have more money to spend elsewhere. But I think if you're looking to bench boost, obviously you need someone a bit better than Dewsbury Hall because he's got Liverpool away in game week 5. Now, I might bench boost with him in my own team with that fixture, but that's because I want to bench boost before I wildcard. So just take these things into account. I know Reinders has blanked in the last 2 games, which as a non-owner has made me very happy, but he's still a really good value pick if you're expecting the minutes to be good. And then Paquetá's nailed, number 10, on penalties. Not bad for DEFCONs either. He got 11 in game week 2, 15 in game week 3. He's just one of those picks you just put in and don't have to worry about. He's like a budget Bruno Fernandes, I think. So I quite like Paquetá for less than 6 million. I don't know if I'm completely happy with the midfield, if I'm honest, but I also don't think there's a much better way to set it up unless you're willing to reduce money in defence or the forward line. And I just really like that defence. I know it's expensive, but I think it will work pretty well. Anyway, let's talk about the forwards. And then up front, I've got João Pedro, Jean-Philippe Mateta and Victor Gyökeres, which I think looks really nice and is part of the reason that I took some money out of midfield. With Gyökeres, you've got that Arsenal attacker in there ready for the fixture swing in game week 7, but he's also not that bad for the next 3 weeks. Like Forest at home, City at home, Newcastle away could be better, but he's nailed on. The minutes look good right now, and he's on penalties too. Like as a Watkins owner for my own team, I'm hopeful, maybe wrongly, but hopeful that he can outscore Gyökeres over the next few weeks. He's got Sunderland away in 5 and Burnley at home in 7. But if I was wildcarding, I just want to save that transfer down the line. So I would just put Gyökeres straight in. Mateta, I know people are slightly worried because Eze's been sold and Sarr's obviously picked up an injury. But Eze wasn't there for the Villa game where they scored 3 goals. And I know Sarr was, but they are still going to do well without those 2 players. And Mateta's absolutely nailed on and on penalties as well. And you've got that Sunderland fixture right in front of you. West Ham away in 5. 6 is not ideal with Liverpool at home. But for those of you that are free hitting, there's even more reason just to include Mateta from the off. And then João Pedro's minutes right now just have to be great. He's going to play close to 90 in a lot of games coming up. I don't expect Mark Guiu to get many minutes. So João Pedro will play number 9 with no Delap and no Jackson. So I think in my opinion, João Pedro is a much better option than he was earlier on in the season or like in pre-season. And people already thought he was amazing. So he must be even better now. So I quite like him. I will say, part of the reason I've chosen that front 3 is because I think a lot of people watching this will want to go for a forward line like that. If I'm being open and honest, I'm not sure that's how I would set up. I think I would be quite tempted to upgrade that Xavi Simons spot to Bruno Fernandes. And I'm not going to get into that in a great way because I know people don't like him as a pick. But he is just solid. He is nailed on. He is on penalty. He's just handy to have. And I would fund that by dropping João Pedro or Mateta to someone like Thiago at Brentford or Muniz at Fulham. Now, both of those players come with risks. Muniz, you've always got the early sub with Raul Jimenez lurking. And at some point, maybe Raul Jimenez starts instead. But I think Muniz is first choice right now. And with Thiago, his minutes have been good in the first 3 weeks. But they've signed Reece Nelson now. Nelson could play in one of the wide spots. And Schade or Utara can both play through the middle. So Thiago is not necessarily absolutely nailed on for 90. But I think he will continue to be first choice. Whether he's got penalties, we don't know. Because obviously Schade took the last one but missed. But I would do that to do Xavi Simons to Fernandes. I would just feel more comfortable with him in the team. Xavi Simons is a bit of a punt, which is fine if you want to do that. It's just not how I would necessarily play it. You could just stick with this kind of structure and go for a different midfielder. It doesn't have to be Xavi Simons. Like if you look at the list of midfielders for kind of 7 or below, there's a lot of options, right? You could go for Jack Grealish, although he does have Liverpool away in game week 5 when some of you will be looking to bench boost. Enzo Fernandez maybe is another Chelsea player, like in Doy, but I just wouldn't go for Forest. I think the fixtures are going to run out soon in terms of good ones, and they've got so many attackers there. Utara maybe, but the Brentford fixtures aren't amazing, but I would look at Thiago, so it wouldn't completely put me off. I just think I said this the other day when I was chatting about Grealish. I think that 6 or 7 million bracket, there's a lot of options. I don't know if many of them are amazing. That's why I just like having Fernandes in the team. By the way, if I was dropping one as João Pedro or Mateta, I actually don't know who I'd drop. I'm pretty sure it'd be João Pedro because I'd go for the nailed-on penalty taker. But I'm pretty sure João Pedro's nailed on right now. He just won't have penalties if Cole Palmer's there. And he obviously was behind Enzo Fernandez anyway. So I'd probably choose Mateta for that reason. But I think João Pedro's much closer now than he was. So yeah, that's how I've said. I like that structure for the defence and forwards that I'm trying to fit in. But I do think I personally would probably drop one of the forwards down. And then you've got less money. Actually, I don't know if I would. I'm thinking about it now, right? So you've got like João Pedro and Simons. That could be Thiago plus Fernandes. Is that miles better? I don't know if it is, you know. I don't know. And the only thing you've got to think about later on is how you get Cole Palmer back. But at that point, you just sell one of the forwards to fund it. And if you're bench boosting, once you've got that out of the way, you could drop one of those forwards down to like a 4.4 and just get Palmer that way. So I actually quite like how it's set up. I like Bruno, but I don't think he's essential. I've never said he is. I just know that's probably what I would do. I think it looks solid. There's no bad picks there. They're all pretty much nailed on, apart from, I guess, Xavi Simons, because we've not seen it yet, but I'm pretty confident he will be. And Reinders is a Man City player, so I don't think you can ever fully say they're nailed on, but I wouldn't expect him to miss out a lot. I think this works nicely with Bench Boost 5. I think it works pretty well with Free Hit 6, but it's also okay without it as well. Not amazing, but it's okay. Yeah, I like it. Let me know what you would change in the comments below. If you've enjoyed that video, make sure to give it a like and hit that subscribe button. I'll be back soon for more videos.